Welcome you all in the presentation of floods and flood management. This is my second video in continuation with first video. I am Trupti Pandya from Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technical Education and Research Center, Navsari. So, in first video, I have discussed about three topics: Indian rivers and floods, causes of flooding, flood control measures. In flood control measures, there are two parts: structural mitigation measures and non-structural mitigation measures. So in first video, I have already discussed about structural measures. In this video, we will see non-structural measures in detailed description of three structural measures named levees, flood wall, and channel improvement work. Then our next topic will be flood damage analysis and flood management. So this video include three major topic of this module. Non-structural mitigation measures. The non-structural measures include modifying the susceptibility to flood damage by floodplain management, flood proofing, response planning, flood forecasting, and warning. Modifying laws burdened by disaster relief, flood fighting include public awareness and flood insurance. So these are the non-structural measures to control flood. Let's see one by one. Flood plain zoning. Area near the river are the most vulnerable for flood hazards provided the areas are not a highland. Therefore, people should not be allowed to those floodplain areas for dwelling houses. Places below a high flood level should not be recommended for inhabitation. These areas may be used as a park, recreation ground, etc., so that inundation of such area may result in saving life and properties. So floodplains are the nearby areas of a major river in which there may be a chances of flood water submergence, right? So these areas are never provided for dwelling purpose, and flood is uncertain. It never come frequently, like year by year. So these areas are known as floodplain, are used for park recreation, etc. So this see this figure: wide and deep channel, flat floodplain surrounding main river channel. So these areas are always get vacant for dwelling purpose. Flood forecasting. The emergency evacuation of the threatened area is one of the most effective means of reducing damage due to flood under certain circumstances. Once the flood occurs, the normal activities of the society are badly interrupted with immense losses. Therefore, flood forecasting is a real necessity to minimize to a great extent temporary evacuation of persons and shifting the important property to safer place could be done before the flood arrives. So prior intimation is given to the people so they get evacuate the place. Flood proofing. In cases where certain isolated of high value are threatened by flooding, they may sometimes be individually flood-proofed. It essentially consists of a combination of structural change and emergency action. Structural change include construction of the building wall with some waterproofing material, closure of lower level windows, and providing some means of watertight closure for the doors. Thus, even though the building may be surrounded by water, the property within it is protected from the damage, and many normal functions can be carried on. So, if we are constructing some buildings and that area is frequently flooded, then we cannot shift that building. So what we can do, we can protect the building from flood by structural measures. And in third point, we have discussed about the structural measures, like simply the flood proofing material, increasing the height of compound wall, closing the lower level window, and the watertight closure for the doors are provided. So thereby, at the time of flood, the flood water cannot enter into the building, and thereby we can save the property within the building. In case of an industrial plant comprising buildings, storage yard, roads, etc., may be protected by a ring levees or flood wall. So flood wall is constructed surrounding the building like a compound wall of this type of construction. Now, these are the non-structural live methods. Other method is mathematical modeling. In the flood disaster mitigation measures, mathematical model by computer can be predict flood. For predicting the flood and flood damage and intensity and how much area may get flooded. So with the help of model we get the prior intimation, and thereby we can get the idea how to prevent the losses. So when natural flood upstream of a river is known, mathematical model of flood routing can predict the flood intensity at some downstream point. So what is flood routing? In detail, the mathematical modeling we will discuss in our next video of flood hydrology. So this mathematical modeling techniques can alleviate the flood disaster in the river valley in case of both natural and dam-break flood situation, right? Now, these are some non-structural measures: flood proofing, forecasting, like floodplain zoning are the non-structural measures. Now, here I would like to discuss in detail about some structural components which control the flood damage are levees and flood walls, and one another is channel improvement work, right? So let's see levees and flood walls. These are the oldest structure and widely used, which protect some area, or which increase the river section, and then we can store more amount of flood water into the river itself. They are essentially in longitudinal dams constructed along the river bank, roughly parallel to the direction of flow. These serves as an artificial high bank of the river and thus prevent the floodwater from spilling over the adjoining land. So this is simple channel with these are the walls with walls, right? The flood water is confined between the levees or flood walls and is made to flow down the river without causing any damage to the countryside of the levees or flood walls, and is made to flow down the river without causing any damage. A levee is a earthen deck or embankment, which I have already discussed in first video. Levees are most frequently used for flood control because can be built at alternatively low cost material. Locally available earth can be used for embankment purpose. It is a sort of an earthen dam construction Like they are usually built with the material excavated from the bore. It's parallel to the levee line, right? The levee cross section must be adjusted to fit the site and the available material. The top width of the levee is usually governed by the requirement of the movement of maintenance equipment, one kind of road, right? An adequate space is left between the inner toe of the levee and the top of the borrow ditch to avoid collapse of the ditch bank. So for levee protection, again we have to protect the structure ultimately. Otherwise, that structure it get washed out due to flood water, and the area gets submerged. So for the protection of the levee, the inner toe is safely constructed away from the bank, like this is, we can say, levee with the help of locally available material or with the help of rocks, right? Location of levees. Levees should be located on both the banks such that sufficient area of flow is provided between them to transmit the designed flow with reasonable freeboard against wave action. It is also often cheaper to place the levee along the high ground. So already we get the higher surface, so the height of levee can be maintained or can be reduced. When a city or agriculture district is to be protected, a ring levee which completely encircle the area may be provided. Okay, so levees are the earthen embankment or the locally available material embankment. Flood walls. A levee is an earthen dike or embankment, while a flood wall is usually of masonry and concrete. And we have already discussed that if we have less space at the dam, at the river bank side, then instead of levee, flood walls are provided. They are masonry or concrete constructed just on the river bank. Flood wall is a sort of gravity dam. Levee is a sort of earthen dam, while flood wall is a sort of gravity dam. Proper foundation should be provided. All precautions should be taken against scouring. If there is a black fill on the land side of the wall, backfill on the land side of the wall, it acts as an earthen retaining wall, right? The low-lying area along the closure of the river are known as floodways. So this is second term. One is floodplain, area near the river bank, where it is which is never used for dwelling purpose, are known as flood plain, while low-lying area along the course of river is known as floodways, from where the flood water may flow. Floodways are the large depression into which a portion of the flood water diverted from a river. The water diverted from a river through a natural or artificial channel is temporarily stored during the rising flood. After the flood reduced in the river, the water stored in this depression is permitted to flow back to the river. So this is floodways, right? The floodway serve two functions. They create large, shallow reservoirs which store a portion of the flood water and hence decrease the flow in the main channel below the diversion. They provide an additional outlet from water and hence increase velocity and decrease stage for some distance above the point of diversion. The construction of floodways is limited by the topography of the valley and availability of low value land which can be used for floodways. Floodways normally used during the period of major flood. The land can be used for agriculture purpose in the rest of the period. The diversion channel carrying the water from the river to the floodway may be natural or artificial. The water may be diverted over a low spot in the natural bank of the river or through a gap left in the levee line. In some cases, a fuse plug levee is provided. So the water in the flood ways may be finally diverted into the river itself after the flood recede. Next is channel improvement. Channel improvement as a flood control measure can be used to reduce the river stage at a specific point in the range. A river can be made to carry higher discharge at lower level by merely improve its hydraulic condition. Various methods of channel improvement are increase in size of cross section of the channel, realignment of the channel along a shorter route, increasing velocity of the flow in the channel, increasing waterway at crossing, increasing the size of cross section of the channel. The increasing size of cross section to cater for a high design flood without spilling over the bank is economical, practicable only for small stream. So by the increase in the cross section is a cost effective manner, so it can be used for small stream. In cases of larger rivers, such method is very expensive. There is a problem to dispose of excessive excavated material. Now then realignment, the figure show this is done specially for meandering river, right? As we have already seen that cutoff. So cutoff is the one of the method of realignment of the channel. It is practicable only in case of smaller stream, right? And the discharge capacity of stream can be increased. However, this method is economical practically for small stream with manageable low discharge. Third is increasing velocity of flow. The velocity of flow in the channel can be increased by deepening the river, inducing width, or by shortening the channel length. This by these three ways we can increase the velocity of the flow: dipping the river, widening the river, and shortening the length. By artificial cutoff, removing barriers in the channelization, and lining the channel. Right? So we can increase the velocity by lining the channel, by removing the barriers, and with the help of artificial cutoff. All these methods are adapted for increasing the velocity of flow if they are economical and practicable. There are number of crossing on the rivers such as bridges, culverts, and aqueduct. The inadequacy in the waterway of bridges, culvert, and CD works may result in aggravating the flood situation because they reduce the waterway overall cross section of the river. To avoid this problem, adequate waterway should be provided at the crossing. So these are the non-structural measures. Few structural measures are I have discussed: levees and channel improvement work. Now My next topic is flood damage analysis. Now, after doing all these mitigation measures, if flood occur, it is always damage the properties. So, how to analyze this damage? So, the damage is bifurcated into two ways: direct damage, indirect damage. Direct damage results due to physical content of flood water, physical contact of flood water. For example, damage of crop. So these properties are directly affected by flood. Crop, damage to houses, damage to human lives, livestock means animals, damage to public utilities, roadways, railways, etc. So these structure or livestock are direct in contact with flood water and they get damaged. That's why the damage to these is comes under direct damage. What is indirect damage? Damage to property or services which are not touched by flood water but is a loss or damage as a result of interrupted trade or division of rail or roadway traffic or other effects indirectly affected by flood. For example, factories, shops, and business center in flood affected area may be closed, indirectly affected by flood, resulting in loss for their owners, stoppage of industrial production, and temporary unemployment of workers. So, this is the example of indirect damage due to flood. So, these are the damages, and due to these damages, we bifurcate the losses into two ways: tangible losses, intangible losses. The tangible losses are those which can be estimated in terms of some money value, right? In terms of money we lost. The following are the tangible losses: damage of personal property like buildings, furniture, electric goods, etc. Loss of crops, loss due to disruption of trade and business, loss due to disruption of road and railway communication, cost of relief measures are the tangible loss. So, flood damage, direct flood damage induced direct losses like tangible losses. Damage to properties such as building, public utility, roadway, bridge, canal, telephone line, electric line, significantly part of flood damage. These damage are assessed on the basis of estimated cost of repair. Damage to the crops constitute more than 60% of the total damages in India. So agriculture site is maximum affected by flood. Hence greater care is needed for its assessment. Thus, the correct method of estimating the flood damage of crop is the preliminary estimate prepared just after the flood loss, the return obtained from placing after the flood. Railroad communication is affected, areas may be interrupted, resulting in reduced earning of the railway and transportation operation. Daily wages earned and smaller paddler working in the affected area may suffer loss in their daily wages or earnings. Cost of relief measures should be estimated. So, these are the direct. or tangible losses. The intangible losses are those which cannot be estimated in terms of money, are loss of human life and cattle, loss of health due to disease caused by flood, loss caused by social distress, loss due to hindrance in development works of town or city, snake bites and other physical ailments and hardship. So these are the intangible losses due to flood. Loss of human lives in flood may be due to capsized boat, house, collapse, etc. Loss of human lives in assessed only in number, not in monetary value. But in case of loss of cattle, monetary value can be estimated. Importance of the analysis of the flood damage is aimed to find realistic assessment of benefit cost ratio of the flood control scheme. So these losses are calculated, the damages are calculated for assessment purpose and for different schemes to be implemented, right? So the benefit cost ratio is to be calculated or assessed for flood control scheme, right? So this is the end of the whole module, which is which is divided into two parts, video 1 and 2, and this is the end of flood and flood management. Thank you.